hold up. So, last week's reveal with Bon being able to see the spirits changed everything. And then Fushi's reveal came in and said, hold my beer, we're gonna change the entire goddamn story. So if I'm understanding correctly, these spirits that follow my boy through and through, day in and day out, had Fushi made a body, an emotionless husk body that just looks like his fallen comrades, but obviously is not alive, the spirits could have entered it and brought themselves back to life this entire time. But because the man in black kept it a secret, and because Fushi isn't really aware that these spirits are following him, as far as Fushi understands, well, basically he can turn into those that he has a connection with. But this really changes everything, and Bond's in quite a predicament, because Bond's one of those characters who is sweet as hell, man, but it's one of those things where if he tells him now, the ability for him to become king and to basically rule in a way that he wants ceases to exist. Bon is a great dude, and eventually Fushi's gonna have to find this out, there's no way you bring up the potential of resurrection and not use it on, at the very least, March. Like, that's like one character who I could very much see, like, getting a resurrection because she's a little girl who was taken too soon. Though there are some forms that, because in theory, right, should he bring someone back, he wouldn't be able to transform into them anymore, and Fushi needs all the help he can get, but there's certain forms you just kind of are under the assumption that he would want to bring back. He would want to bring them all back, but it's a matter of if the spirits themselves also wanted to be brought back. So this shit has my mind racing. Live reaction is available on the Patreon if you're interested, of course, but let's talk about this, because this is hands down the most thought-provoking To Your Eternity season, and we're only 5 episodes in. There is so many little mechanics that make for a great experiment in a lot of ways. Like, you get to think about these moments where Fushi's making a shit ton of arrows, or he's making a shit ton of prosthetic legs, and you can really think about the long-term uses of someone like Fushi's caliber, as he's literally Jesus Christ in a lot of ways, just way more useful. So, in theory, right, you could have an army. Like, imagine if there was a war, right? There's 2 sides, Fushi's side and another side. You could literally outmarch anyone because you wouldn't need to carry equipment. Fushi could make you tents, ammo, equipment, whatever you need, and you'd be able to do literally anything. And we're already getting a taste of, you know, spreading the word of Fushi. So there's all these like really interesting ideas of how to propel Fushi as this almost godlike status that could in theory build in a way like a religion, a cult around him that could deal with the knockers even long after someone's dead. The issue is now by bringing up the concept of resurrection, it's only a matter of time before Fushi knows he can do this, and it's probably going to be not because Bond reveals it, but because he discovers the girl whose body he made after trying to show the dad that there's nothing I can do, it's a husk, it's a body that has no life to it. That's probably going to be his trigger of finding out the truth. But here's the thing. If you can prevent death, the world will enter chaos, right? The world cannot sustain everyone living forever, especially if people continue to have kids. Like, there just wouldn't be enough resources to go around. You could argue, well, Fushi can make all the resources needed, but eventually Earth would be too packed to be manageable in terms of the living environment. So you have to wonder what's going to be Fushi's stipulation, his reason for not bringing someone back, and what he'll do, because there's got to be moments where he thinks, no, like you've reached a natural end, or maybe it's just the spirit says they don't want to continue. You already have the 2 bros floating around Bond being like, you got to tell him, maybe he can make us a body. There's just a lot of pressure, and to be in Bond's situation would be such an awkward moment. Everyone would want to say, no, I just tell Fushi, but telling Fushi could ruin everything, because right now, they're dealing with knockers in a pretty decent way. If Fushi removes all of his abilities to transform into, I mean, the knockers could easily screw him over and then overpower the world. There's so many ways it could become chaos. You have to reveal it at the right moment in the right way. But at the same time, the way the spirits look at him, it's almost like they want him to tell, but at the same time, like, I'm just wondering, because if he gets to keep the forms even after bringing them back, well, then at that point, you can make the argument there's no penalty for bringing them all back. But even if that's the case, it feels dirty. Like, you know, the concept of playing God to that level. We've already been kind of playing God with Fushi in a lot of the things he does, you know, giving money, giving weapons, food, all these things. But the concept of life and death is such a powerful tool that, you know, Fushi in a lot of ways is still an innocent kid. I mean, that scene with the doll, I think is a great example. Yes, he's surrounded by the spirits of his fallen ones. So in a lot of ways, March's childlike innocence is rubbing off on him. But Fushi's never had the opportunity to play with a doll or play with a toy, right? He's always been someone tasked at this, the weight of the world on his shoulders. And because of that, to see him just enjoy life in a childlike way for a brief moment, it goes to show, like, is he really mentally prepared to deal with the concept of do I bring everyone back? Do I be selective? And you can just see the hard questions and lack of answers that would pop up with it. But to see Bon at the end, after basically saying, like, I have to keep it a secret, he feels like he's going after being a king more than anything, and then to see him pick up the doll and bring it over to March because she's a spirit, she can't lift things, it melted my heart, and just being like, God damn, this girl deserves to grow up, but at the same time, I don't know what characters should do in this moment, nor do I know what Fushi should do after he learns the truth that he can bring seemingly anyone back if the spirit wants to go back into the body, and that's kind of nutty. It does feel like there's a good majority of his spirits that probably would want them, like, as an example, right? You have Tanari, whose entire purpose was building a body so Fushi could not have to be poisoned ever again. There's no way Tanari, in my opinion, at least right now, would want to immediately come back. At some point, sure, but I don't see her wanting to just yet. But a character like March, she's a little girl who deserves a second chance to grow up in this world, right? There's a lot of things that, it could be a mixed bag response, but incredible stuff, of course. But there's some fun little reveals as well. I was talking about it last week, both in the video and the comments. The concept of Toto, was it a spirit who got reincarnated, or was it a girl who then got fat and is pretending to be a boy? We get the confirmation that the girl who basically the sister and the mother acted like it was just Bond's imagination again, seeing things that aren't there. Turns out that it was just a human who they didn't see, and in return ended up becoming, well, the human chair and has been demoted to sock duty. So it's nice to get that confirmation out of the way, which I really enjoy, and just the episode as a whole was just so thought-provoking, right? It's something that gets your mind racing, and for me, To Your Eternity is at its best when it lets you think about the long term alongside those emotional gut punches. And to me, this was like the perfect example, and I'd argue one of my personal favorite To Your Eternity episodes, period. And there's just so many moments that make me love Bond all the more, but make me so thankful I'm not put into a situation like he's currently in. Like the fact that he generally cares about his people, like he's so worried about a single soldier dying and then he immediately is just hugging him, just so thankful. They're showing him pictures of their kids, like obviously it's just like a carving because there's no pictures in this world just yet, but it's nice to see that he's a legitimately good dude, and yes, there's a selfish desire to keep Fushi ignorant for his own gain, but you can also see it from another side of like how it could also be harmful, that information, and there's a time and a place to reveal it, but you also have to be a little selfish if you do want to become king, sort of a thing. But it's a matter of time before he does realize the truth, and I'm not sure how Fushi will respond. The Man in Black definitely has been keeping secrets, as he always has been, and it's interesting to see and get the confirmation that he can 100% see this man. It feels like Bond is scared of him in a lot of ways, and I'm very interested to see where that dynamic could go in the future. But let me know your feelings, because this is even like more thought-provoking than last week, and I thought last week was mind-exploding a possibility. So, of course, as always, let me know your feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. You can also consider supporting the Patreon. Like I mentioned, we got a full live reaction to today's episode, and you can also get fun perks like video shoutouts, like a few are getting today. So we got Tony X, Devin Mitchell, and Teeny Bopper. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.